Hello everyone and welcome to the showdown between the Skaven, led by Lord Skrolk, and the Lizard people, who are going to be led by the mighty Battletoad. So let's jump right into this match, guys, and have some fun. So in the front line, I do have a very heavy core Plague Monks, and I feel like with 36 melee attack, 32 melee defense, and 35 weapon strength, they can usually perform pretty well against Saurus warriors. If you look at Saurus on the other hand, and I think he actually has Saurus spears in the front line, so yeah, they have a 24 melee attack, 28 melee defense, and 42 weapon strength because they are the spear variant, and I'm actually facing off against the mighty Professor Pone. So before the match, we were actually talking in the lobby, and he actually meant to pick regular Saurus warriors, but it ended up not being a bad pick, especially considering I went with the double Hellpit Abomination. But, in terms of just raw combat stats, the Plague Monks do trade somewhat effectively, especially if you're using Lord Skrolk and the Blades of Putrefaction to give them poison. I definitely feel like it's a bit of a nice niche for these guys. So we're going to have them in the front line, kind of just trying to go fisticuffs with the Saurus. On top of that, in the back, I do have two groups of Stormvermin with halberds. So if he tries to blitzkrieg my front line with, Bastillodons or just gets in there with Jabba the Hutt on Zlok, I feel like these guys are a decent secondary line. In worst case scenario with 90 armor, they are going to put up a good fight against most Lizardmen infantry. Two groups of these Hellpit Abominations right here for the anti-large and armor piercing. Typically, I think the better way to go against the Lizardmen is to use like what are those things called? The Warp Lightning Cannons in the back line, just with their anti-large and the range. But, actually considering the build he brought, he has 3 of the Bastillodons with the solar engines, and I feel like these things might be able to kind of outlast my Warp Lightning Cannons and maybe, even counter-snipe them. So hopefully the Hellpits will pay off. The one thing that's a little bit rough are Hellpit Abominations are weak to fire. And if I'm not mistaken, these Gary and George over here do fire damage. So that's going to be pretty testing for my Hellpits. I do have a single Doom Wheel just to run through the front line of Sauruses and things like that. Just cause fear and terror. Definitely not a bad idea in my opinion. Skrolk with the Vermintide, Wither, and Blades of Putrefaction. Then of course an Assassin. Trophy Heads is pretty much always worth it. And aside from that, just a couple groups of Skaven Slaves. So I'm just going to be using those to chase off Skinks. Well, not chase off, but occupy them. So Chameleon Skinks are very good against the Skaven because they have pretty good damage against lightly armored targets. So against Raduggers and Hellpits and things like that, they can really be very punishing. And on top of that, with 48 speed, they can outrun most Skaven troops, especially if they're poisoning them. I think the fastest thing on the Skaven roster is maybe the Doom Wheel. The Doom Wheel has 72, which when poisoned will go down to like 50, and it's just not going to be terribly effective at chasing these guys. So I definitely love this pick from Professor Pone. On top of that, he does have a Skink Chief. He's got some Feral Raptors over here, so just going straight up Jurassic Park on me. 3 of these Bastillodons with solar engines, which is going to be so tough because he has these Saurus spears. So even if I chase him with my Hellpit Abominations, he's going to be able to use the spears to really just take down my Hellpits. And of course, Jabba the Hutt on Zlok. So Zlok, he's got a Curse of the Midnight Wind, Apotheosis, and I think he's just going to be using those 2 abilities, and then of course the Bound abilities, which are very good. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. So initially, Professor Pone, it looks like he's going to be shooting at my Plague Monks here, just kind of, wearing those guys down to make it a little bit safer for his spears. But as the battle progresses, he definitely does a hard switch onto my Hellpit Abomination. So you can see the Skink Chief is going to look at these rats just being sent flying. Oh man, that's so great, just seeing the Skaven get blasted. But this is probably one of the biggest things that's really tough in this matchup and maybe justifies bringing like someone tankier, so like Tretch, or I think actually bringing like Tretch as well as a Plague Furnace or something with a Plague Priest might be a little bit better because he's able to just sit the Skink Chief on top of my Lord Skrolk and just do a ton of work. You can see Skrolk's already at 85% give or take. So I do summon a group of clan rats, and I also get my Skaven slaves over here, and I'm just going to be chasing off the chameleon. So this is a pretty good tactic. Anytime you're facing off against chameleon skink rats with the Skaven, just summon some clan rats and chase them down, and you usually won't have to worry about them for quite some time. So my Doom Wheel's just kind of looking for an opportunity. He does have his Jurassic Park troops coming in, and they're going to be charging into Skaven slaves, which is very good. I also have some of my Plague Monks kind of munching away, and they should be able to take out those feral cold ones relatively quickly. So the main fight's underway. The Stormvermin are going to be rushing in, so I send them in to just kind of get in there and fight in melee. I figure they'll do pretty good against these Saurus Spears. But we do have a pit fight here with the Hell Pit Abomination. So you can see the Curse of the Midnight Wind going down, lowering their armor. A nice banishment from Professor Pone, doing some pretty decent damage against the Stormvermin. Only getting like 5 or 6 kills, but pretty good HP damage. So one Hell Pit Abomination is kind of whacking on Gary back here, and I do also pop the Libra Bubonicus to do some decent single target damage. The Hell Pit Abominations, though, you have to always be like if there's spears or something else nearby, you need to be like spam clicking on the target you want to attack. You can see I do lose my attack orders there, and I'm attacking the wrong target, so definitely a bit of a mistake there. But my other Hell Pit Abomination is doing a pretty good job just monster mashing this Bastillodon, and the infantry fight is going pretty well for me, I would say. You can see my Skaven Slaves and my Plague Monks are really just cutting through these spears, and my Doom Wheel is also doing a pretty good job. But again, Jabba the Hutt, all it takes is one good ruination of cities to see this entire Skaven infantry blob just pretty much go out the window here. And Lord Skrolk does have the Curse of the Midnight Wind, so his armor and some of these other stats are going to be lowered here, and it's definitely looking very wild. So I do get my Hell Pit Abomination back on the appropriate target, trying to drag down this Bastillodon Solar Engine. You can see my assassin is in here fighting as well, and the spears are getting worn down, but this is something that's also pretty scary. My troops that I had chasing off his chameleons on the far side are routed off, so these guys are going to be coming back and putting a ton of pressure on a lot of my big targets here with their poison attacks. But this is also very rough. A very good ruination of cities going down, just melting my plague monks as well as some of my storm vermin here, who are blessed with filth. So very well played by the mighty Pwn here. And you can also see that his Bastillodons, despite being like a primarily ranged unit, are still doing really good in the main fight and just monster mashing all over my plague monks. So balance of power relatively even. If anything, it's in Pwn's favor just a little bit. I am able to force off that feral Bastillodon, who did get the apotheosis, but I have storm vermin, I have a Helpit Abomination, and all kinds of good stuff going on. So the one thing that like is really going badly for me in this battle is my Lord. So Lord Skrolk has just been taking a beating. And the Skink Chief has just been sitting there just shooting him with darts the entire time, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it. Like, he's getting worn down, and that was really stressful because I knew Jabba the Hutt was in pretty good health, and if you don't, when you're playing against Lizardmen, you really need to alpha strike them. You can't just like let them get low and retreat because of all the layers of Cold Blood and Apotheosis. And I don't think he brought a Rev Crystal, but still, with Jabba the Hutt and the Cold Blood charges he has on his caster as well as his Skink Chief, there's a lot of threats on the battlefield. So right here, my Storm Vermin are able to chase off this Bastillodon, but I do have to overextend a little bit to get on his Bastillodon with the Solar Engine over here, and you can see some of these Solar Spears are going to be pushing in, and they have that anti-large bonus. You can see they're just doing hundreds and hundreds of damage to my Helpit Abomination, who does have regeneration, but at the end of the day, it's still a very, very good trade for the mighty Pwn over here. So up in there, you can see a Skink Chief actually just straight up no-scope Skrolk, and you can see Skrolk just mouth open, just going down, rotting back into the earth there. But that Skink Chief, just the MVP, just putting a ton of work in. So bounce of power, as soon as Skrolk dies, it does shift in Pwn's favor a little bit. But again, the battle could still go either direction. I have a ton of troops left. So I have some Plague Monks, but the Curse of the Midnight Wind definitely doing some good work. But the Helpits beating down this Bastillodon here. I'm able to get this Bastillodon, but I have to chase him because the problem with the Solar Engines is that if I don't chase him off the battlefield, they're going to turn and start using their artillery against me again, and that's going to be really devastating, especially considering I have so many units that are weak to fire. So right here, we're going to get a bit of a Kaiju battle, and man, look how big Zlok is compared to this Helpit Abomination. That's something, but Jabba's putting up a good fight, doing some good damage. I have about 48 leadership and close to 4k HP, but I do have that regeneration, so Jabba's starting to take a little bit of work, and you can see the Helpits coming in there with their anti-large bonus, and I do have my Assassin coming in with a Concealment Bomb, trying to get away from the Skink Chief who's just been, darting him. But yeah, this is definitely tough though, because the Chameleons finally made it back to the battlefield, and they're going to start putting this withering fire on my Helpit Abomination. So very well played over here. And Jabba the Hutt dropping Apotheosis and Shield of the Old Ones to give some leadership to some of these Spears who are very beat up. But the Spears coming in, getting their anti-large bonus on the Helpit Abomination, who's at about 2k HP. I do get a nice charge with this Doom Wheel coming in the back. Doom Wheel! So it gets in there, doing some good work. Maybe I'll be able to tear out them. You can see they do drop to steady leadership. But the Shield of the Old Ones does actually mitigate some of the magic damage coming in from the Doom Wheel here. So I do get some of my Storm Vermin, and I'm like, I can't have these Skinks just shooting at my Helpit Abomination, so I need to chase these guys down. So you can see these guys are just going to be taking one for the team. But despite their 90 armor, it will kind of stop a lot of the damage coming in from Chameleons who don't have the best armor piercing. Let's actually go ahead and take a look. So 19 missile damage right now because I think they're poisoned themselves. Yeah, it looks like they are, but yeah, their AP is very, very low. So a decent little engagement there. On the far side, I do have some Skaven Slaves and Plague Monks coming in, and I have some Storm Vermin here who might be able to chip away at the Bastillodon, but I feel like, they're so beat up, and my Lord's gone, so I'm taking a penalty for not having a Lord, and I think this Bastillodon's just going to be able to fend them off. On the far side, you can see Gary is just came back from route, so he's probably going to turn and start shooting. This one's just blasting in, just point blank, and just whacking my Helpit Abomination, who I was like, all right, let's try and hide him in the trees, but I realized it wasn't working, so I'm like, all right, might as well waddle back out there and try and do something. But I still do have a Doom Wheel. I have two Helpit Abominations who can potentially regenerate, and if they regenerate to their full capacity here, the balance of power could switch a little bit in my favor, but man, you can see those Solar Engines coming back in. Professor Pwn also has some Spears routing over here, so you can see 1, 2, 3 groups there, and over here it looks like my Bastion of Skaven is going to be kind of crumbling and getting chased off by this guy, just throwing the little javelins at those guys. It's pretty funny. So this is kind of my last ditch effort here. So I have my Helpit Abominations as well as my Doom Wheel, just ramrodding this Bastillodon with the Solar Engine. We might be able to get him down. It's hard to say. He has about 2,000 HP, but his leadership is going to break. But that's the toughest thing. He has the Skink Chief. He has these this guy just shooting right to the tree over there. But he has all of these Solar Engines, so no matter who I chase, I'm going to be taking fire in the back and also taking that extra 25% because it's fire damage, and it's just it's getting a little bit tough for me. So I do chase that guy off. I think I actually allocate the Doom Wheel to chase him. I can't remember. I think someone, because I'm like, I can't afford. He still has half ammunition. So these Helpit Abominations are just going to waddle into the trees. I'm like, oh, be free, be free. But you can see Jabba the Hutt's coming in here. Professor Pwn smells blood in the water, and the mighty Mighty Battletoad is going in for the last stand here. And oh, here comes Locke. And let's see who's going to win this glorious charge. And look at just Jabba, just that power stance, just so alpha. And it looks like the Hell Pit Abomination is going to crumble before the Might of Zlok. And there are some Skaven Slave Spears coming out, but they're probably just -3 within like 1 second. So those guys route off. And I have my other Hell Pit Abomination, but that is going to be all she wrote for the Foul Skaven Horde. So very well played to Professor Pone. That was an incredibly fun game. And let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown. So as far as the composition goes, I would probably... having just seen how much work a single Skink Chief can do, like I got to use one Lieber, and I don't even know if I got my Rod of Corruption. I barely got to use my magic. I just lost him in too quick. So I honestly think going with like Queek and the Dwarf Gouger for some AP, and then getting a Plague Priest on a Furnace, which has 100 armor, so it's not going to be easy to snipe, might be better. Plague Monks in the front line are okay. Maybe just even going with like cheaper infantry, because I feel like if you're going to get a Plague Furnace, so let me actually go ahead and kind of I'll go and show you guys, and we'll take a look at some of these deals here. So. This is probably a build, and again, I usually don't use the Hell Pit Abominations, but I wanted to try them out. But probably if I were going into some treacherous times here, I'd probably get the Warp Shard Armor, as well as the Dwarf Gouger. Tretch is honestly pretty good too, because he's super hard to kill, but Queek, I feel like might do a little bit more work. So you get a Plague Priest on the Furnace. Maybe get the Pestilent Breath? I don't know. Wither, I don't know if you really need that. We could get something like this. I mean, you have options there, so that's really kind of interchangeable. And for the front line, you could honestly probably get some, you could get like 2 Plague Monks and then get some Clan Rats with shields, which I think would be a little bit better at like fending off the Chameleons because they have the shields and they can chase them and have better combat stats. And then on top of that, 2 Storm Vermin, you could get like a Warp Lightning Cannon. And what else would we want to get here? Could get like some like Gutter Runners, but I feel like they really... I did like the Doom Wheel though, because it was like terror routing a lot of those troops there, which is pretty decent. And you could even experiment with like Globadiers and different things like that. So you can cut this and get like double Globadiers, and although I feel like you maybe need some Rat Ogres. So yeah, Rat Ogres are always pretty solid. So you could like get one of those. You could cut these guys, have the Halberds defend the Warp Lightning Cannon. That opens up a ton of options. Let's see what else we could potentially do. We could get another Rat Ogre here. So 2 Rat Ogres can lay a bit of a whooping on those. What are those guys called? The freaking the Bastillodons and things like that. And I think probably an Assassin would be a decent kind of thing to round out the curve here. So I need to experiment a little bit more with this matchup because Pone definitely did such a good job with those freaking Bastillodons. Like it was the fire damage really caught me off guard, but I think against like a matchup like this, it wouldn't be as bad. The frontline engagement, you'll probably win because of a Plague Priest and a Doom Wheel. You have Rat Ogres and the Warp Lightning Cannon and some Halberds, as well as Queek to take down some of the other dinosaurs. But yeah, a little bit more experimenting required. So very well played to my opponent, Professor Pone. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this game. And guys, I got a lot more content coming soon.